There's a village in northwest China where, for centuries, locals have had unusually pale eyes, wavy hair, and a name for their town that some linguists think translates to Rome. No one can definitively prove why. But the leading theory starts with 10,000 Roman soldiers who vanished from written history in 53 BC. You're a legionnaire in 53 BC, and your commander is Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome, a man who financed half the city's politics, and a man who has never actually won a war. He's bought his way into the triumvirate alongside Caesar and Pompey. Both of them have real military legacies. Crassus doesn't. So he does something reckless. He invades Parthia, modern-day Iran and Iraq, without provocation, without Senate approval for the scale he's attempting, and without understanding the terrain he's about to fight in. You don't know any of the politics. You just know you're marching into open desert with heavy infantry, and somewhere out there are Parthian horsemen who fight completely differently than anyone you've trained against. By the end of this video, you'll see why some historians think what happened to you next didn't end at Carrhae. It may have ended 2,000 miles further east than anyone expected. The Parthians don't fight like Rome expects. No shield wall, no clean formation to break. Just horse archers, mounted, mobile, firing composite bows that outrange anything your side carries. They circle. They shoot. They retreat before you can close the distance. Then they circle again. Some ancient accounts describe Parthian arrows piercing Roman shields and armor at close range. The extent of this is debated, but the psychological effect on the legion is well documented. This is the part where the chemical weapon claim usually gets exaggerated online. Some retellings describe a blinding, glowing banner. That specific detail isn't in the reliable ancient sources. What is documented is something almost as strange. Parthian silk banners, catching desert light, creating a visual effect ancient writers described as unsettling and strange to Roman eyes. New material, never seen by most of the legion before. Not a weapon. A psychological edge. Combine that with an enemy who never lets you get close enough to fight the way you were trained, and you start to understand why a professional army breaks. If you were a legionnaire that day, stand and fight, or break formation and run. Drop your answer below. Crassus's own son, Publius, leads a cavalry charge meant to break the Parthian line. It's a trap. He's surrounded and killed. What happens next is the detail every account agrees on. The Parthians put his head on a spear and parade it in front of the remaining Roman lines, in view of his own father. His is the moment that breaks the battle. But it's not the moment that creates the mystery. That comes after, when the survivors surrender. Crassus himself is killed shortly after, during a chaotic parley that both sides describe differently. Roman sources say betrayal, Parthian sources, as reported secondhand, suggest confusion. To verify, exact circumstances of Crassus's death are disputed between surviving accounts. The battle is over. Roughly 20,000 Romans are dead. And roughly 10,000, including you, are taken prisoner. This is where the official record starts to go quiet. Here's the open loop the rest of this video answers. Roman historians tell us 10,000 legionnaires were captured. They do not tell us what happened to them afterward. No triumphant return, no mass execution on record, no clean ending. If stories like this, where the history books just stop talking, are the kind of mystery you're into, there's another one on this channel you'll want next. It's linked at the end. What we do know, Parthian kings had a documented practice of using skilled captured soldiers as border garrison troops, far from where they could organize a revolt or escape home. To verify, this practice is attested for Roman captives in general terms. Specific unit-level records for the Carrhae captives specifically are not preserved. So the 10,000 don't vanish from history because they died. They vanish because they get folded into someone else's army, in someone else's records, thousands of miles from Rome. And Rome stops keeping track of soldiers it now considers already lost. Here's where the theory that made this story famous picks up. In 1955, an American sinologist named Homer Dubs proposed something that took decades to gain any real traction. That a group of unusual mercenaries recorded in Chinese historical texts, fighting for a Central Asian warlord, described as using a distinctive fish-scale battle formation, were actually descendants of the captured Roman legionnaires, who drifted east as garrison troops over roughly 2 decades. This is Dubs' hypothesis, not settled historical consensus. Mainstream historians remain divided, and some consider the evidence thin. The fish scale formation detail is the piece that got people's attention. It resembles descriptions of the Roman testudo, the shield wall formation legionaries were famous for. A formation like that showing up in a Chinese military record, attributed to foreign mercenaries, at roughly the right time, is either an extraordinary coincidence or the first hard trace of what happened to the missing 10,000. Coincidence or evidence? Vote below, one word, coincidence or evidence. Follow that thread further east and you land in Liqian, a town in Gansu province, northwest China. 4 generations, some residents have reported features unusual for the region. Lighter eyes, wavy or reddish hair, and local oral tradition has connected the town's name and identity to Rome. Genetic testing conducted in the 2000s produced mixed and contested results. Some studies found elevated markers associated with Western Eurasian ancestry. Others found the sample too small or too influenced by the historic Silk Road's general population mixing to draw a firm conclusion. Verify. Genetic studies on Liqian are small sample and their conclusions are actively disputed among geneticists and historians. So here's the honest answer to the open loop. Nobody can prove Liqian's residents are your descendants. What can be shown is a documented gap, 10,000 missing soldiers, and a documented echo 2,000 miles east, close enough in timing and detail that serious historians have spent 70 years unable to fully dismiss it, and unable to fully confirm it either. That unresolved space between dismissed and confirmed is where this story has lived for 2 millennia. And it's not the only Roman disappearance with a debated ending. Step back from the legend for a second, because the real story underneath it is arguably stranger than the myth. Crassus invaded for personal glory, lost by refusing to adapt his tactics to unfamiliar terrain, and got a third of Rome's eastern military strength killed or scattered in a single afternoon. The empire's reaction wasn't a rescue mission, it was silence. Rome didn't chase down 10,000 of its own soldiers. It absorbed the loss and moved on. That's the part that should actually unsettle you. Not a mysterious glowing banner, not a definitive lost city, but how easily an empire could let 10,000 men simply stop being accounted for. Before you go, one word. Does the Liqian theory sound more like history, or more like legend, to you? If you want to keep pulling this thread, the video where this channel covers Rome's other vanished legion, the one lost in Germany's Teutoburg forest, 36 years later, picks up right where this one leaves off. It's linked on screen now. Subscribe if you want the next Lost Legion story before it drops.